and I'm advocating and using my voice for highly sensitive men in the world. And today we have a wonderful gentleman from India, and his name is Manas Arvind, and he is going to speak about his experience as a highly sensitive man in India. So I'll read his bio aloud, and then you get to know him a bit better. So Manas is an entrepreneur, innovator, creator. He is constantly dancing with ideas that make this world livable for all, one step at a time. He understands and treats entrepreneurship, sustainability, justice-based development, and ecological equilibrium inseparably in his endeavours. He is passionate about creating opportunities for all to have dignified access to clean food, water, air, space, and thoughts. Manas has diverse interests, probably a multi-potentialite, and expertise in food, cognitive learning, science, communication design, visual and literary expression. He is currently engaged in projects creating a sustainable local food supply chain, designing a forest, a local community collaboration tool, and redefining education, also my field, using AI and deep NLP and empathetic learning and responding. Okay, welcome Manas. Thank you for being here, taking the effort to contribute and to support my project about highly sensitive men, where I portray different men from all over the world. And yes, having this wonderful gentleman today from India is a treat for all of us because he does amazing work. Also for the women in the factory over there, but you will hear a lot more about that. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Susanne, for this conversation, this opportunity to speak and interact. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Looking forward to some good conversation here.
Yes, fluidity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm inquisitive. How did you learn about high sensitivity?
Honestly, a friend introduced me to you and said that you two need to talk. And that's the time when I actually did a little search on the internet and figured that it's quite a established area of study. Nonetheless, that in fact it was good for me to know that this is being explored in such depth and detail by you. And yeah, so I'm very new to the formal space actually.
Yeah, thank you. That's probably the wonderful Dipali Parma who
Dipali Parmar, yes, a wonderful person.
Yes.
He introduced us.
Yeah, she's also going to be the speaker for the Global Highly Sensitive Women's Summit. So yeah, she's amazing.
She is, yes.
Yeah. So can you share with us what it was like growing up as a highly sensitive man in India?
As I said that obviously there is no awareness about that a person is highly sensitive or is normally sensitive. So everybody is treated the same. And I came up in a fairly kind of a conservative environment. I was brought up in a family space. So yeah, there's no special or any kind of attention given to me. In fact, now I see that now I know about the idea, that realize that why I acted and behaved in a certain way in my childhood. And I spent a lot of time just reading on my own, and just not being able to be part of the larger play groups and team sports also. And there are a lot of things which would kind of go in my mind while playing. So these thoughts were not recognized or heard, basically. So yeah, I was not much of a. I kind of became more started spending more time with myself. Uh, I grew up in a kind family, so I had siblings, elder siblings, who still took care of me, and my parents took care of me. Yeah, but not because uh, being highly sensitive, but they acknowledge that I'm kind of this is what I like to do, so just allow him to do whatever he wants to do. And I also kind of uh, I was not the troublemaker, and I was kind of quiet, and so I had my sneaky ways of bypassing the
Adapting.
the, the rigmarole. Instead of bulldozing, I'll say I was kind of sneaky, or just to sneak out of things and find my way to the rooftop or to the tree nearby. Something like that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
shared a wonderful childhood picture with me, and I will insert it later. And you shared with me that you really love reading and even poetry and painting.
Yeah. So my uh, I spent a lot of time. Quite early, I started writing poetry. I think I was 8 or 9 years old when I got introduced, and painting was always there. I always loved painting all the time. And then when I got a bicycle, that was my freedom. And then I went all over the town just riding my bicycle for long hours, and nobody seemed to mind that me doing it. So it was kind of pretty much fun. So yeah, so the reading and writing and poetry and cycling, and I used to kind of do things like collect stamps and matchboxes and pencils and thousand different things, and the leaves and stuff like that. I had different kind of scrapbooks and like Almira full of these things. Yeah, so I now recall when you were asking me, I remember these things filled my time. I was not a very school loving, formal education loving child, but I kind of managed to do enough to stay below you know, below the danger mark.
Yeah. Something with bare minimum expectations.
Yeah, just meet those and keep everybody kind of. I just stay out of radar, and that was my strategy. So I managed to kind of stay below the radar at the school. My strategy was to not make any mischief and stay invisible and do my thing, and teachers kind of quite liked it. Um, so that's why I kind of managed to skim through the early years. Yeah, another thing is like I was kind of a misfit into the, as I said, in the games or in the school groups or friend circles, and
A misfit, like feeling like a black sheep.
like a black sheep, you can say, because difference in I in the same age group, I figured that I had thoughts which they were not able to understand, my same age group people, uh, and so I ended up spending a lot of time with elder uh, uh, people, uh, and they kind of understood, but then they found it odd for me to be speaking about things which do not belong to that kind of age. So I was kind of stuck in between also. So yeah, black sheep can say, and but yeah, I took the stand. uh, I like to take the stand also and not abide by whatever everybody was saying. So I was not a very agreeable person on a lot of things also, but
Yeah.
quiet, peaceful, but not like just go. I would not go with the flow. Yeah, that's the kind of that made me a black sheep and difficult for me to also understand how to fit in. But I was not trying to fit in also. That was never the idea.
Yeah.
So,
So a proud black sheep.
yeah, I could say. Yeah.
Yeah. So what can you share with us? What is absolutely not done as a man in India?
So in India or in my society or in my surroundings, but it's a very masculine and feminine genders like are very separated. So men have to behave very masculine and you can't cry and you can't. You have to be bossy and you have to kind of always be in charge or in control of yourself and in your surroundings and be competitive and uh, uh, be successful in things you do, and failure is not kind of accepted, it's looked down upon. So that's the kind of typical environment which I saw around me, and I also was kind of part of it to some extent. Like though I resisted, but yeah, I was subjected to this kind of system. It's common actually, and I think it's fairly. It's not. It's fairly patriarchal. It's not fairly. It's like largely patriarchal. It's like ingrained. Like so, certain roles and stereotyping is kind of taken for granted. It's like there, and
Okay, can you give us an example of a role that's taken for granted?
yeah, the role of a man is to lead the household, be the master of the household, make money for everybody, and that's the job. So you have to the primary uh, bread earner or of the house, and uh, yeah, and take charge and be sometimes be physically violent also. It's like acceptable or is expected from the men, kind of a thing, that to safeguard the assets and the people in the family. And so that's what men would do, expected of them to do. At the same in the jobs or in the businesses also, it's something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, you've a lot of experience with that within the projects and the organizations and everything that you do. And I can understand that sometimes you just have to set terms and live with those, or maybe, well, it's not completely surrendering, but not compromising.
Mm, I think for me, I actually picked up my career path. I was in a job earlier, but then I realized that I can't fit into it. So I set up my own small enterprise, small business I set up. So and that allowed me a lot of freedom to be a lot more. But again, it's in the same space, right? Whether I'm working for somebody else or for myself, I'm acting and operating in the same space. So I did get a bit more uh, freedom. And in fact, there's an example I can give. It actually allowed me to take much better care of my daughter, who was just immediately after I set up my business and she was born. And my wife was used to work for another company, and her office was far and to take commute time and all that. So because I had my own business, I could set up a kind of a nursery for her in my own room. And every day I used to bring my child to office, and it was such a beautiful experience for me. And I think for the child also, I could take better care for her, and she was my priority, for every over any other business. That was my child was my priority. It was like to feed her and to take care of her, to change her nappies and naps. And I did it for kind of a period till my wife changed job and she came in closer, and my child also grew. But for at least for a year and a half, I managed to do, like, immediately after, like, a 6-month-old child was like coming with me and not left with uh, anybody else. So I think that allowed me to my setting up my own business allowed me to do this. That was uh, I think that was a great bonus.
Yes, it is. So what responses did you get from the family or colleagues or friends that you were also taking care of your daughter at the time?
I think they all love the idea, and they found it amusing. It was unique, but there was no resistance. But they liked the idea that I can I'm doing this. I'm able to do this and make space for this, because generally the children get compromised a lot when the parents are working. And it was everybody appreciated that. It's very fortunate that I have this opportunity and the child has this opportunity, that we are not compromising and building. The work is actually being driven around her rather than she uh, being compromised. So I would set my meetings accordingly, or I would do telecalls or stuff like that. Like, the world has come to video conferencing now, but I discovered uh, teleconferencing and video conferencing quite early. And in fact, my clients also loved the idea, so they supported. Yeah, it was pretty supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It's wonderful. And how old is your daughter now?
Now she's going to be 18 years old. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to do that. For me, I design my work around her. It's like, for me, it's like that. All my travels, all my work, when she is around, then I have to might decide or design my itineraries around that. Not that I kind of hog her or something, but it's just to raise a child properly, nice.
Yeah, beautiful. So is that, in a way, was that why you created another perspective for the women who work in the factory and all the things that you do for them? Can you explain first how you help and support the women in the factory?
So the food business which I started, which was basically to create a holistic ecosystem for the farmers, organic farmers, and nutrition, improving nutrition in the community. So I set up a small food business where it was primarily a bakery business, but we decided not to hire a professional hand or team of professionals or bakers. Excuse me. Instead, we said that we'll hire. Uh, so, just to give you a little background, this factory was in the middle of kind of a ghetto or a cluster of houses where everybody worked either in the automobile factories or the garment factories. And these businesses or these families were there for the past 15, 20 years. And now the children are grown up. And there are girls and the boys were like 15 years, 20 years old, young kids. And there's a lack of employment. And we set up a factory there. And we were looking for people. And I said, why don't we look for people who live like at a walking distance. And at the same time, because of the work we are doing, women will be much more adept in doing this. And it also creates, it's like a double advantage that while we are looking for women, women are also looking for jobs. So we spread the word around, and we got a lot of interest from the local girls, and we set up the team. We trained them ourselves, and making mistakes was absolutely fine. There was a lot of scope we created for making mistakes, and a lot of experimentation and trials we did for a few months. And we kind of created a comfortable space. And as we grew, and because it's a very conservative space, and so we said that let's create a safe space for women. So the area in which they work, if they don't want, in fact, it was only with their consent, no men will enter if there is no, it's not their business. Like, just for chit chat and just troubling or whatever. So we said, let's not do that. Let's create a safe space. Then another thing which we did was season oriented timing. So summers we have longer days, winters are shorter days. So we would shrink our timing. So they always would leave office during the daytime when the sun is still there. So so we typically had 1 hour, 1.5 hour less during the winters working hours.
Because that's
Uh,
for the women. That's the reason.
yeah, reason is that they walk home, and not they are not safe. Streets are not safe, so they felt much safer when it's still bright, the sun is still up. It's easier for them to walk to their house, and no transportation to be taken and all that. That also gave them flexibility. The days if there is more work, they would stay back, and then we would actually drop them home also. So that allowed them to kind of, so most of the time they try to finish the work quickly. And if the work expands, it will happen probably once or twice in a month, and we would arrange a transport and send them home, even if it's just a kilometer and a half away or something, walking distance. So we did these things. And then there was a lot of conversation on gender equivalence, and very subtle conversations, very lunchroom kind of conversations which we would have. And then skill building was, so not just baking, they would get their hands onto accounting, computer, warehousing, packaging, bookkeeping, language, all lot of things. So whenever there's a free time, they had access to learning these things. And over a period of time, a lot of them actually started multitasking, and they started teaching the new employees who came in. So that kind of became like a self-managing system. Another thing was about the leaves, because it's a rigid system, like holidays and leaves system. So, but uh, these girls, they may come from a different uh, groups, or kind of have different religious beliefs and have different festivals. So allowed to choose those, they could choose those for themselves. He said these are the fixed number of days, but you can take taken off as per your. So sometimes they would take it on birthdays, the siblings' birthdays and all that, but they just would inform in advance, and we would plan accordingly. Another thing was about the menstruation days or the period days, and it was difficult for them to speak about it, but they are uncomfortable, or they have cramps or pain, or but they can't talk about it. So we said that these days, if there is somebody is uncomfortable and wants to take a leave, that's not counted. That's like just take off. And so they kind of manage productivity between them, and it was okay. And then I had to sensitize the men working in the factory that talk about it, make them more aware of periods and menstruation, and kind of normalize the conversation.
Yeah,
While it's
helps you in the way of sensitizing the other men? and speaking about a very feminine topic as a highly sensitive man.
It's a yeah, but it I kept it kind of very uh, friendly, informally friendly, and then and men are aware of it, right? There's not that they don't have women in the families, but they it's like kind of inherited behavior that you have to act and behave. So it was a subtle movement in conversation that you know it's not a disease, it's not a medical condition, it's like normal, and this is how it happens, and maybe it's the nutrition and all these things. So even they I saw change in the body language, and they became more caring also, in a way. So this was very interesting. This When I was doing it, I wasn't very uh, I wasn't so conscious of what we were doing, but later, now I reflect on it. I said that that was something very interesting which got done, and the results were amazing. And there's some, if I talk like a businessman, I say my productivity never suffered. The what do you say? The rejection rate was far below any industry average. We actually had near zero wastage in a food industry, which is like, whoa, it's amazing. And there's so much accountability and transparency in the system. Everybody felt like owners of the business. It was a great put for me. I don't have to actually do much. Like everybody's taking care of the business as if it's their own. So this was very interesting. Like as a small experiment for me, uh, and I thought even if it fails, I don't have much to lose. But it didn't fail. It kind of was very successful, and I there's a lot of learning I got, and kind of courage and confidence I got that uh, these things are not just have to be talked about, but we can actually bring a small little change in our workplaces, design them in such a way that they are conducive to it helps people work better, and people enjoy the work rather than kind of so people need I like the fact that they look forward to coming to work. There was like nearly zero late coming, and if somebody's coming late, they would have a valid reason, and nobody ever. And I just said, "Oh, it's fine. If you must have had a good reason for not coming on time. So even if you tell me it's fine, if you don't tell me it's still fine." So people kind of yeah. So there was nearly zero late coming or absenteeism or anything like that. In fact, yeah, it became like an auto running factory for me. It was a small experiment, and yeah, I think I'll write about it someday.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, as a highly sensitive man, what gave you the courage to organize it in this way?
Uh, for me, it's like I I simply say that if we lose this or if we fail, how far will we fall? What is my stop loss at this? As in, uh, and if we win or if we succeed, how high will we go? So if I can manage the buffer of loss and if I can account for it, it's worth taking that risk. And if that can be, or there are some risks which feel bigger, can be mitigated or can be spread. So that's the way in the mind I kind of calculate most of the things, that if I don't take the risk, I'm not going to go forward. And it's basically a design exercise which kind of goes in my mind. It's like a of things like design thinking and mind mapping. All these things happen, and linking happens, boxes moved around, and I see create a model and then say, okay, now it's worth implementing, and let's do it. And also kind of spread it over time depending on the resources, and so reduce the risk of failure. And I think it works almost all the times. Yeah. uh, it's not that success in the first step, but those setbacks are worked into the system or into the plan. So it's okay. I'm very patient actually. I can think, spread things over years, what people can't think over months.
Women. What is it that they create in the factory? It's food, but what kind of food?
So we, okay, so at the Grainies, that was the name of the brand. We created uh, in between meals, snacks, what people eat between their major meals. There were cookies and there were biscottis and there were energy bars and stuff like that. And they were made using the traditional methods, but with using modern technology. So it was a mix of that. So that's another innovation which we did. And all these grains or ingredients, they were coming directly from the farmer. So that we were basically, the entire model was efficiently designed to help to give more money in the hands of the farmers and to directly connect to the customer. So we would sell directly to the end users or end customers. And it was basically received a lot in the younger children. So the parents would buy it for the kids and they could trust, like our food was safe for anybody who can eat. A 6-month-old toddler can also eat. It went with that kind of a confidence. So there was so much care which had to be taken while we were making this food, and we were very sensitive towards not trying to be over ambitious about production numbers, and but it was always about the great quality. It was very artisanal in its making, very lot of hands made with hand uh, happened there. So automation only happened only in those places where we needed like the right temperature controls, dehydrations and stuff like that. That's where we brought in modern technology, but everything else was made by hand. So, and we were very patient, like don't rush things, just do things nice and make them really good. Yeah. So that's what these girls really excelled in. I feel that it just suited the temperament of the women who worked there.
Yeah, and am I right? Did I understand correctly that the women also get their hygienic pads for free in the factory? Or did I misunderstand last time?
No, no, no. At the factory, we didn't give them the pads. I think it was misunderstood.
Okay, yeah, okay, checking.
That was, I think, in my cultural context, they will be taking it too far.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
because?
yeah, that's too personal. Yeah, that's like,
Okay,
yeah, they would stop coming to work if I do that.
yeah, and why is that?
Yeah, it's very conservative, and it's like the parents or the family will say, "Oh, this." In fact, but it's a great idea. I think I'm going to keep it in mind. But at that time, it didn't come to me. But even if it had come to me, we wouldn't have kind of done that. It's like it's very conservative. It's too personal. Yeah.
Okay, okay, so thank you.
But they were paid pretty well. So I have a feeling that they used uh, good products.
Okay, so people, this is why we need highly sensitive men. This is what they do when they are in entrepreneurship, in organizations, in projects. This is what I wanted to show you. Having that perspective and helping and supporting not only men but also women. For example, like Manas did with the women in his factory, where they lengthen the summer days and shorten the winter days so they can get home safely. Sometimes they can come in later and there will be a valid reason for it. better pay, of course, and what is it? Yeah, that if they're not feeling well, especially with monthly challenges, that they can take a day off. This is a wonderful contribution to the world, and Manas, I thank you for it. Using your character trait, the sensitive trait, to make a difference in the world. And I would like to ask what it is that you want to say to the highly sensitive men in the world.
I'll say that if just celebrate yourself. There is there's so much to explore within, and if with the great sensitivity brings greater experiences, and so there's a lot of interesting learnings which can happen within, and as a with the mix of the environment. So that's a great thing. And there's obviously it's I think it's a gift. So it need not be it need not be curbed or uh, looked down upon. So, but it's to be celebrated. Even if it's a one-person celebration, it's okay. And yeah, that's what I would like to say. And just be who you are and build on that gradually, slowly. Be patient and explore. There's so much to explore within and outside because of that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Manas. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Susanne.